Hello, and welcome to The Kosh. I'm your host, Timber Smith, and The Kosh is a podcast that spotlights people who've had an association with the Kosh or the surrounding Fox Cities area. Good morning, Kosh listeners. How are you doing? Once again, it is a fabulous morning. I usually like to ad-lib a little bit at the beginning, but I'm not going to lie. I'm not sure that that's going to happen this morning because I feel like we might just want to jump in. We just might want to jump in because I think we've got a serious conversation that is about to happen, and I'm fascinated. So I think you know what I'm going to say. I hope you know what I'm going to say. And if you are a true listener of the Kosh, you know exactly what I'm going to say. I don't know how I get these amazing, amazing guests. I'm blessed. So blessed. You're blessed because we get these amazing, amazing guests. So without further ado, this week's guest is Tim Hanna. Hey, Tim.
Timber, what's going on?
Hey. It's a great morning. It's fabulous. How you feeling this morning?
Beautiful morning. Are you
Yeah,
kidding?
It is.
We could do a whole podcast on the weather
Well,
and climate change. And
oh,
I mean, my gosh, and the climate change deniers and right. The hottest year in recorded that we've been recording. And oh my gosh, no, it's just an anomaly. It's like, okay.
no, there's a lot of people.
Sorry.
No, we can talk about that a little bit. My favorite comment more recently was somebody at work, and it was an interaction, and we were talking about the weather, and it led to, let's just say, a couple of brief comments about climate change because I was not trying to engage, right? Because I'm careful. Everything is not worth engaging into because the outcome of that conversation is usually not going to be fruitful, right? Especially just depending on where they're at with it, right? Either way. So I made a statement, they made a statement, and then they went to a place of, well, I don't really buy the if people really look at the historical history of the earth and we've had hot periods, we're just headed towards another hot period. It's not any different than in the past. Yes, mankind has made some changes here and there, but at the end of the day, it's nothing that hasn't happened over the million years of time. So we're just going through a phase. It'll be okay. And I was just like, whoa. Didn't know how to feel about that. And yes, I didn't say nothing. Mm-hmm. I left it alone because I was on the job.
You don't have that kind of time.
And look, I just don't want to cause those kinds of issues.
Well, my wife and I have been talking lately about, and I've talked about this in the past, how many people in this country would give who knows what to be here right now, rather than really you want to be in Arizona where it's 115 every day for the last month, right?
Melting people.
And these are the people who say, "Oh, it's too cold in Wisconsin." Like, are you kidding me?
Well,
I'll take a week of sub-zeros versus a month of 115 any day.
Well, you got
Any
points. Day. You got points, but I am going to be fair and consistent with me. I have an agreement with God that I only complain the cold half of the year. I don't complain the warm half of the year because it is me. I am tropical peoples. Mm-hmm. And it's what I've been waiting for. The minute it starts getting cold, I am already ready and counting it down until we have warmth again.
I don't disagree with you. The older I get, the less tolerant I am of cold. But on the other hand, winter's beautiful.
It is.
It's beautiful.
I've grown appreciation
for the
for
seasons, right? Ice fishing. Come on, Timber.
Nope. I'm going to give you another thing that I've learned because, I'm old school Oshkosh now. At least that I'm going to say that. I'm going to call myself old school Oshkosh. And what Timmer in his old school Oshkosh self doesn't do is we don't ice fish. Only Jesus walks on water. I'm going to leave it to others.
Okay.
That's just where I'm at with it. Now, I'm not against eating fish from the ice. And if you are going to go out there, I'm going to support you in your sporting habits.
That you is general because it's not me. I'll tell you that.
All right. Are you ready to jump in?
Absolutely.
All right. Tim, can you please share a little something about yourself and your connection with the Kosh and the surrounding Fox Cities area? I think people need to know a little bit about you and your background.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I was born and raised in Appleton. I like to say I've lived a very sheltered life. The house I live in today is the furthest from where I grew up that I've ever lived, except for when I went away to school. And it's still in Appleton. You know, I just find myself moving about a half a mile to a mile north every time I move. So my roots are very, very deep. And I always have to chuckle when I see people these days, and they say, "Oh, are you still in Appleton?" It's like, I'm not going anywhere.
Well, they might have thought you were going to,
you're retired. Where am I going to go? This is my home. This is where I live, the Fox City. So, yeah, born and raised in Appleton. I sold the house that I grew up in 2013. So, that house was in our family since just before I was born. I tell you, that was one of the hardest things I had to do after my folks passed away. But I'm the one here. So I do have 3 older siblings, a sister, 2 brothers. My sister passed away a few years ago. My sister was born deaf. So I grew up with a deaf sister. So I do know a little bit of sign language. Right? It's like any other language. You can speak it a lot quicker than you can understand it, right? And so, but the more I was around her, the easier I would pick it up. And I can read lips pretty well, too. So careful. So I have 3 grown children. I was going to say 2 boys and a girl, 2 men and a woman.
Bruh.
Yeah. So, my oldest son has been all over. He and his wife just recently moved back to the Milwaukee area. So it's great to have them back. My other son and his family live in Stoughton, just south of Madison, and my daughter is in Appleton. So that's me and my family.
There's only one person I didn't hear you mention yet.
My wife?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome lady. We known each other for years. We worked together when we were both married to other people, but we always enjoyed our time together and working together, and we had a lot of similar interests, we liked the same kind of music. She understood my warped sense of humor. And then we lost touch over the years, but eventually reconnected when we were both going through some tough times. And, at this point, I feel like I married my best friend.
That's amazing. Okay. You ready to jump into the first segment?
Let's do it.
All right. First segment is called What in the World is Going On With? That's where you start with the phrase, what in the world? And you tell us what's on your mind. So, Tim, what's on your mind?
Which one do we want to talk about?
Let's
do it.
We can go through a couple if you like, but I mean, you get one, I get one, and we want to add in one. We can do that too.
Let's do it. What in the world is going on with fact versus fiction?
Bruh.
Yes.
Where do people get their information from? And what information are they using to make choices? How are they choosing who to believe and who not to believe? And how do they discern whether what they're hearing is true or not? It just boggles my mind. And right today, there's such a plethora of places to get information.
Right. And a lot of them, they ain't necessarily telling you the whole story. They're just telling you from one lens.
Correct. But have we really taught people, have people learned through the course of their education the skill to discern and to ask good questions, and to figure out how to get the whole story, or how to weigh alternative quote unquote facts to discern what's really true?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't know either.
Well, and I mean, when I say that, what I mean is I think people have a tendency to believe those messages that are similar to those beliefs and those things that are in the echo chambers of their silos. And they don't question those, even though they could be 100% wrong. The other part is, parents. Everything parents are sharing isn't necessarily accurate, but it's accurate for the family.
Well, that's part of it. Part of it is, we could have a whole discussion about our education system, right? And
that's what in the world is going on with.
Well, we could have a whole discussion about that. And the difference between teaching children what to think versus how to think.
Bruh.
Right? And, the difference between just believing everything and being able to discern and to be able to ask good questions. And I don't know that we're successfully teaching that skill to our children.
But, okay, let me ask this then. What about when everything is there to say that if you believe this is wrong, here is all of the instances of proof. Or here's the video. Watch it for yourself, and people still find reason and ways to say, nah, that's not that. No, that didn't happen. Or, ooh, look over here.
Yeah. That's part of it. And, maybe a precursor to one of our later discussions, but it doesn't come down to what? It comes down to who do you trust? Who do you get your information from, right? Yeah, I see that video, but I don't trust the person who's showing me that video, right?
Yeah.
I trust this other person over here. And, we'll get into the culture discussion later, but that's part of it.
Yeah, I love this. I think you're right. And, I'll be the first to say, like, I'm getting news from multiple places, but there's a couple of, one place I'm getting news from social media. What comes through my feeds?
Mm-hmm.
What's on my algorithm? And this comes up, right? Now, I don't know about you, but have you been spoofed yet by someone, a report on social media that someone's died that didn't die?
I've heard about it, but no, I haven't.
It's happened numerous times now. See,
But how many times has Morgan Freeman died, right?
Exactly. But I'm just saying, like, the minute I see anything that is significant, I've got to go out and look for several multiple sources. I've got to read it in 3 or 4 different places and some really highly funded, credible ones before I believe that person's this, right? It can start at TMZ, but I need NBC and ABC and Fox and, some of the major networks on regular channels, not our news channels per se, to kick out this information.
You mentioned the word algorithm, and again, powerful tool, but also dangerous, right?
Yes.
Depending upon your propensities, the more you are in that lane, the more it filters out everything else. And I don't think a lot of people understand that and actively go outside of where they normally would be to get maybe alternative views or alternative information.
Or what are you doing when you see things that you don't agree on? Do you allow them to stay or do you erase them? Right? Or people. I know that's a big thing. Like, I'm sick of listening to this person rant about this thing or that thing. And then people silence people or get rid of people in their algorithm. Right? And then you're only getting things from a very one-sided set of things.
Right.
Items.
Yeah. I don't know what we do about it other than raise awareness for people and just keep putting it out there.
Facts.
Yeah, facts. Whatever they are.
Right? All right. My what in the world is going on with Florida's new Black history curriculum that says slaves developed skills that could be used for personal benefit.
You could probably just stop at what in the world is going on with Florida. Period.
Facts. That's facts.
Right?
What? Florida.
I see that and I just like, are you kidding me? The state board of education is putting this out and saying this is what needs to be taught? It just blows me away.
We have to talk about and be honest about who we are for us to be better.
Absolutely.
And we've gotten so soft that we can't truly just acknowledge the sins of our nation. How do we get better?
Think about it. Just in general, for every person, they were honest with themselves. Do you learn more from your successes or your mistakes?
Right.
Right?
Well, mistakes. Mistakes are
Absolutely.
Education. Failure is education.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And you learn even more when you admit it. Oh my gosh.
Well, you have to admit it to learn.
Exactly.
But this ain't about learning. This is about...
No, it's about ignoring
and covering up and all that.
And I know you've had these conversations before, but the whole fear factor, fear of change, fear of something different, fear of something that I don't know enough about, right? And it drives people's behavior or lack of behavior. They don't want change. Change is hard for people. Something new, something different, something that goes against what I believe or forces me to think about something that's uncomfortable. It's hard. It's hard for people.
But this is change. This new curriculum is change.
Yeah, exactly. Well, It is and it isn't, right?
Kind of.
It's kind of putting a candy coating over something that I think people have believed for a long time, right?
Well, I think that the normal person understands the atrocities associated with it. Just period. I don't care who you are. Right. You don't see anybody jumping up and down talking about, woohoo, that was great. Mm-hmm. Proud moment in American history. I'm just saying, it's just not typically what you hear. So,
I heard that and like, are you kidding me?
Bruh.
It makes me. So my wife and I enjoy our vacations in the spring. We actually got married on the beach in Florida, and we enjoy our time down there. And I said to her yesterday, I said, this stuff makes me not want to go to Florida anymore. I don't want to spend my money in that state. Supporting all the stuff that's going on down there. It's this year when we went to Florida, we drive because we enjoy our time together in the car. We have great conversation and it's our time. And I said to her before we left, this was right after that debacle in Tennessee where they kicked the legislators out, right? Mm-hmm. I said, on our drive down, I'm filling up the car in Kentucky so that I don't have to stop in Tennessee. We are not going to spend any money in Tennessee. I don't want to support what's going on. Mm-hmm. And then we get to Florida, right? The big, food chain down there is Publix, right? Well, the owner of Publix is a big supporter of the governor down there. So I said, and when we go for 2 weeks, and we go to the grocery store, and I like to cook. And I said, I'm not going to Publix. I'm not going to that store. But it just makes me I don't want anything to do with that state.
I feel sad for those people who have to live there because they're economically stuck.
Right.
And as a black person, I'm scared to go to Florida because right now it feels like there's a whole lot of stuff targeted at us as black Americans. Did I say Americans? Mm-hmm. Targeted directly at us that it's dangerous. I want to say unwelcoming, but that does not do justice to the culture that's being created in that state.
Correct. You and anybody else in the LGBTQ community probably feels the same way. Mm-hmm. Why would we go there?
Yes. And here's my thing. So I was thinking about this as this became my what in the world is going on with. And if they're going to create a curriculum where they want to change, if they want to say that slaves developed skills that could be used for personal benefit, then I think we need to also teach the skills that those that participated in slavery, as far as slave owners and the enforcement of slavery, those skills. So we need to teach about evil and torture and rape and theft and murder and manipulation and dishonesty. For those benefits, those character benefits of those individuals who enforced and participated in slave ownership and enforcement.
Right.
I think, if we're going to teach that there was benefits, let's teach those benefits too. Let's teach the benefits that those individuals got from being slave owners and slave enforcers. Once again, let me go through my list again because I just want to be clear to the listeners.
Absolutely.
We need to teach about the evil and the torture and the rape and the theft and the murder and the manipulation and the dishonesty of those people in our American historical context.
You got it. And while we're at it, why don't we teach about, if they want to talk about the skills that they learn, the personal skills, let's talk about their lack of ability to apply those skills during Jim Crow. Great, I've got these skills, but I can't use them to my own benefit because even though slavery is no longer legal, they're still finding ways
to keep people enslaved.
Correct.
Basically.
Yep.
Legalized.
Oh, great. I learned a skill as a blacksmith as a slave. Now I'm free. I can go. I can be a blacksmith. I can start my own business. Like, oh, I can't.
Nope.
No.
Can't own no property.
Right.
Can't get a loan. Nope.
Right.
Really can't.
Right.
Great.
Let's tell the whole story.
Florida. That's all I'm gonna say. Florida.
Bruh.
Okay. I feel like we did that justice. All right.
Yeah.
You ready for the next segment?
Let's do something a little better.
All right.
Okay,
Next segment is word association. This
All
is
right.
where we kick off a word and you tell us what comes to mind when I say this word. And there's one word we always like to start off with. It's the unifying word. It's the word that bonds us all. It's the word of belonging, as far as I'm concerned. And that word is food.
Food. What do I think of when I think of food? What comes to my mind is farm market.
Oh, yes.
Love it. Absolutely love it. But, I mean, there's way more to the farm market. But when you talk about food, right? Local food, locally grown, fresh produce, tastes way better than what you buy in the grocery store. Wide variety. Right? And our growing season's a little different here in Wisconsin, but boy, fresh food is the best. So, yeah, food. And I'm a foodie.
Oh, yeah, you are a foodie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely could hang with you. we could hang out.
Yeah.
Or better yet, we have hung out. All right.
Let's do it.
Cocktail or beer?
That's an either or. I'm not.
Well, no, it's not an either. It could
like
be
both,
an
right?
and. Well, the bottom line, it's a word association. So I
Okay.
just throw it that way.
So, for me, it really depends upon my mood, right? What kind of mood am I in? Sometimes it's like, oh, I could use a good beer. Other times, I like a good scotch. I like a good bourbon, good whiskey. Not so much in the summer. The winter, warm me up. So yeah. But beer, I'm drawn to probably more of the imports, right? I like Dos Equis. I like the Dos Equis lager. For some reason, I've been in Japan 3 times, and I like their beer. The one I like the best is Asahi. Yeah, you don't see it much over here. You see some of the other ones, but yeah. So cocktails, again, depends upon the mood I'm in. Might be, on a warm day, might be a good gin and tonic. I think about Japan. The last time I went to Japan on just a wonderful trip. It was great. We went to our sister city, but it was the time we spent in other places, and found a little bar that served classic cocktails in Kyoto. And so they served classic cocktails and they played jazz. And the bartenders were dressed in snappy black and white. They were playing old vinyl jazz records. I was like, oh my gosh, this is heaven. This is awesome.
That was it.
And I looked at the menu and I saw this classic cocktail. I didn't know what it was. It's called Balalaika. Yeah, I'll have one of those. So it's vodka, lime juice, and Cointreau. And it's mixed up like a martini, served in a martini glass.
What's Cointreau? Do you got me on the
It's
Cointreau?
an orange liqueur.
Bruh.
And holy cow, those went down easy.
That's always dangerous when someone says, "Oh, those went down easy." There's always more to that story.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
All right. Concert.
Well, I already hinted. I'm a jazz guy. Always have been. I was just a little different, right? Went to college down in Madison in the late 70s, and I'm the guy playing Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Ooh.
George Benson.
Yes.
Bruh.
It's like, right?
That's the real deal.
Oh my gosh. So the best concert we've been to recently was Earth, Wind, and Fire at the Performing Arts Center. It was awesome. And they had 3 of the original members, and oh my gosh, they sounded as good as they've ever sounded. And I was worried. We were on our way to the concert, and I said to my wife, I hope they don't make us sit down the whole concert. I mean, it's Earth, Wind, and Fire. You got to stand up, right? You got to move. Those guys came out, and with all this energy, and they said, "All right, everybody on your feet." Like, oh, all right, good. You know, and nobody sat down the whole concert. It was awesome.
Hey.
It was awesome. And then there is a small little venue down in Chicago. It's at the Lowe's International Hotel right by O'Hare. And they regularly have jazz artists. And this venue is probably seats maybe 150 people. Mm-hmm. And so they have some of our favorite jazz artists that come in. So at least once a year, maybe twice, we venture down there for one of those, because it's a wonderful, intimate setting. And but right, it's small, it's kind of round, stage up in front, small tables that sit 4 people, and the last 2 rows of tables are elevated. And so I make a habit of buying seats in the back row so we can stand up.
Oh, that's a good call. That's a good call.
Because, sometimes we saw a guy named Brian Culbertson, and he's like jazz funk. And you can't sit and watch Brian Culbertson play jazz funk.
Bruh.
You got to stand up, man.
That's what's up.
So, yeah, those are the kinds of concerts we tend to go to.
Streaming.
I don't spend a lot of time watching things. We do have different streaming services. My wife probably spends more time. She needs that kind of downtime, doing her own thing. So if you asked her, it's, Bridgerton and that kind of stuff. For me, the one I really enjoyed was Jack Reacher.
Oh, those were good.
Because I love those books. Really like that character. And so when they were going to, they did a season, it was awesome. And I keep checking back because season 2's coming up. They're going to roll it out one of these in the next month or 2. So I'm anxious for that one to come out. That was good.
You do quite a bit of reading, don't you?
I do. I read a lot online. I've got regular news feeds that I go through in the morning.
Do you do audiobooks?
Yeah, absolutely. I used to feel guilty about doing audiobooks.
Oh, heck no.
Bruh.
Yeah. And I really started getting into audiobooks, especially if I'm got some traveling to do in the car, back and forth to different meetings or down to Madison. I always have an audiobook or two going. And for me, sometimes it's nonfiction, but a lot of times it's fiction. It's just that downtime,
Right.
Just getting your mind off of all the things that are in there all the time. And I have found some authors that I've enjoyed, and then you start reading their books, and they've got some common characters, and so yeah.
Shop local.
Yeah, farm market.
We're back on farmer market. Yes, that is. Hey, look, that is shop local. That is,
It is, and this is going to be a common theme because we'll come back. We'll talk about farm market a little bit later too. It is the epitome of shopping local. I absolutely love our farm market in downtown Appleton. There's local businesses. There are local businesses that have started as vendors at the farm market and ended up brick and mortar businesses.
Right.
Because they develop a following. There's restaurants and other stores that have. We generally make it a point to do at least a good portion of our shopping at Christmas time locally, downtown. So it's hard these days to shop local, but I think people need to be more deliberate about it.
Yes.
Because it's how easy is it to go online? Oh, I need this. You can go online and you order it. Now, it's also frustrating when you know what you need and you can't find it locally.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So there's that dichotomy, like, right? And I'm old-fashioned. I like to try on clothes before I buy them.
Oh. Yeah, I don't. I just buy clothes.
Yeah,
but I don't buy. But to be fair, I also don't order them online. I'm a Goodwill guy.
There you go.
And I only shop a couple of stores in reality.
I thought I recognized those slacks.
That's right. That's how you do it. Hey, look, my thing is shirts, particularly shirts and sweaters. Because Goodwill has a lot of new stuff. Or you take that shirt and you throw it to the dry cleaners and they bring it back to life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like new.
Mm-hmm.
A good starching, good dry cleaning, it brings it all back to life. So, I'm big on Goodwill grabs. If I can go to the Goodwill, and we have just absolutely fabulous Goodwills in our region.
Absolutely.
There's two in Oshkosh, Nina, Kimberly, Appleton, Menasha, there's all of these. There's some Goodwills that the stuff they have in them will give a department store a run for its money.
Right. I absolutely agree. And the nice thing about Goodwill is they do good work with the money.
They do.
Absolutely. Really good programs. Yeah. And a great example of shop local.
It is.
Right. And, on the other side, I'm a pretty regular donor to Goodwill. I don't like to let things accumulate. Clothes that we're not going to wear again. A couple times a year we go through and kind of pare down. And I'm not one that, let's have a rummage sale. I know you like rummage sales. But you're not going to see a rummage sale at
You're not going to have one, huh?
No. I'd rather give them away.
And
I know good things are going to happen.
I'm going to make my personal request then, Tim, and that is, I'm sitting across from you and I'm looking at our shoulders and I'm thinking our suit jackets might be about the right size. So, if you're sitting there with some extra suit jackets around, you just need to go on and give me a call.
I'll trade you a suit for a little more variety in my bow ties.
Oh, and that can be done.
Bruh.
Yeah, we won't even get into the bow tie collection. Diversity.
diversity. Actually, I was thinking about this on when I was driving here this morning. Let's strip away some of the negative connotations that are associated with that word. Okay, for whatever reason,
Bruh.
it really is frustrating that there are negative connotations to that word. 'Cause it's
it even has negative connotations.
correct, because it's a beautiful word. And in its pure sense, the meaning of it is about you can apply it in such with a broad stroke. But let's apply it to humanity. Let's apply it to human beings, right? And let's not paint with a broad brush, because that gets frustrating to me also. People who look alike must all be alike. No, you're not.
Not even close.
Right.
Not even close.
Every single person is a unique person. There's something unique about that person. And it's always been a belief of mine, and what I like to do is figure out what's unique about that person, what makes them the way they are, and just kind of get to know them and really work hard at trying to see things from their point of view, trying to understand where they're coming from, where they've been. It makes life so interesting. So, if we could just approach life in that way, it'd be so much more beautiful.
I just look at diversity as a word that is describing the measurement of difference.
There you go.
It's just not like all of this other negative connotation that has been bestowed onto it. I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
It's just, all it's saying is there's difference in things. I mean, really. It's just saying there's an array of things and there's difference inside of that, whatever the category is.
Correct.
And how all of a sudden difference has become bad. I mean, that's it,
Yeah.
right? Difference has become bad. Like, and that's it. That people who are upset about this word have decided that it's about race, but it's not about race.
Absolutely not.
It's about difference of anything.
And it's always been there,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's just diversity makes the world an interesting place, right?
you wouldn't want the world not to have it. It would be boring.
No, we don't want clones. Sorry.
Yeah. You don't want everything the same. That's really not fun.
No. Mm-mm. Well, and think about diversity in other parts of our life, right?
Yes.
The things we talked about, food,
Yes.
right? Music, fashion,
Yes.
all sorts of other areas of life. How boring it would be
That's right.
if it was all the same,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You look in your closet. Look at the variety of clothes that you wear each day. Even if it's limited, it's still diverse.
And even if we're going to apply it to people, how boring would it be if everybody you hung out with was just like you?
Oh my God, it'd be boring.
That's just not it.
Yeah.
And what would you learn? I'm just
Exactly.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it. And I
Well-
don't know if others are really thinking that through, because others and we're kind of full circling again. Others have told them what that word means.
Right.
These sources, these places where you get your information and news.
Diversity means different, right? To them. Different. And it's fear. It's something different that I'm not used to. And I'm, without acknowledging it, I'm fearful of change. So.
Or difference.
Yeah.
I'm fearful of difference.
Yeah.
I'm fearful when different people live in my neighborhood.
And it's nothing,
I'm fearful when different
it's nothing
people.
to be fearful of.
No, it's actually when it all comes down to it and you really get to know the things, whatever it is, there's usually way more similarity than there ever is difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
another topic we could talk about.
Last word.
Common ground.
Yes. Last word. And the last word, I decided to change it because, and here's the thing. I've asked you this word before, but I said, this word's too good not to ask you, Tim. And that word is community.
That is the one you've asked me before.
Yeah, I said I've asked you this before.
So you didn't change it.
No, the word we were going to go to for this episode I had down was actually resources.
Ah, okay.
But
all right,
I think community, because here's the thing I know about my listeners. They don't listen to every episode, right? Some do. I do have loyal listeners that listen to every episode. Some listeners listen according to who the guest is, and others they tune in when they have time, right? So they might listen to 5 and then miss 2 and so forth. So, but I think it's that word for you is too good not to hear your thoughts on it.
It's at the heart of kind of my core beliefs. When you think about the word community and think about the root of that word, right? To commune, to come together. And in the work that I did as the mayor, I use that word a lot. I use the word community a lot because I wanted people to understand the difference between a city and a community.
Yes.
Right? I can throw a map up on the wall. I can tell you where the city starts and stops. But our job as employees of the city it didn't stop and start at the border. And the reason is because our citizens don't live their lives based on the lines on the map. They live their lives based on their relationships with other people. A community is defined by relationships, how we relate to each other. That's true community. And it's, and in a positive sense, community is really about taking responsibility for where you live and caring about the other people that you share that space with. That's the essence of community. So, community is a very strong word. And I try to impart that perspective to our employees so they understood that when we come to work or when they came to work as employees of the city of Appleton, that they were really working on trying to improve and meet the needs of the wider community and enhance the quality of life, not just for the people who lived in Appleton or resided in Appleton or were the constituents of Appleton or the voters of Appleton, but for everybody in the community. Because the reality is that the people who live in Appleton and vote in Appleton, that I knew that probably half of them didn't work in the city. They worked somewhere else in the community. And there were a whole lot of people who didn't live in Appleton, but came to work in the city of Appleton.
Yes.
So which ones are you serving? Just the ones that vote? Or the ones who actually live and work and live their lives in this wider thing called community that we really can't define on a map, but we can really define it by our relationship, right? And reality is Oshkosh is part of a bigger community, right? I consider Oshkosh part of the Fox Cities. We're in this together. We have a relationship. Could probably be stronger, but there's a relationship between Oshkosh and Neenah and Menasha and Appleton and the Fox Cities. And the relationship is really starting to grow kind of up that I-41 corridor to Pier and Wrightstown and
Yes.
right. So that's community to me.
Love it. Okay. Ready for the next segment?
Are we ready? Yeah.
Okay. Next segment is Kosh Hidden Gems. This is where you share a hidden gem. And maybe it's not a hidden gem. Maybe it's something we all know about, but maybe there's something about the gem that no one knows about. Which is, I find those to be the better gems where, hey, I didn't even know they did that or something like that. And it's funny. I've been doing this segment for a long time, and it never fails. I'm always surprised by something. And there's so many things that I haven't had the chance to engage or learn about or have interaction with. So what's your hidden gem?
Actually tapped my wife to think about this one. And what we came up with was the trail system throughout the Fox Cities. And the fact that you get on that trail system and first of all, you can go just about anywhere. But you want to, in the middle of a urban area, be able to enjoy the outdoors, see wildlife that you never expected to see, spend some time by the water, go out into the maybe less populated areas, but on a walking trail, on your bike, and you can actually take a trail from Kaukauna all the way down to Neenah and be on the trail. You can go along the river, you can go through the downtowns, you can explore the different areas, but get out and take a walk, take a run, take a bike ride, right? And it just connects a lot of us together. But I think what I have found in talking to visitors, some of my colleagues over the years who have come here for meetings, other mayors, they just are blown away by being able to walk all along the river.
Yes.
And see the different things, right? See the pelicans and the different wildlife down by the river. And it's very peaceful. We like to go for walks down at the trail system. My wife likes to take pictures of the different wildlife and the birds. She's always asking about, let's go down and see if the pelicans are there. So I think it's a hidden gem, and it continues to get better.
Yes. There's work that's happening right now to expand those trails. Mm-hmm. Been lucky enough to be part of some of those conversations. And I don't know if people understand the amount of work and thoughtfulness that goes into those processes of creating these trails and connecting these trails amongst the different communities. I'm just saying.
That's the next piece.
There's
going to be a segue here.
Wait. No, I was going to say, I get to learn a lot. That's what I'm going to say. I am a student of all of this. There's so many things that I didn't know. and having the opportunity to just see some things and being part of these conversations, whether I'm actually contributing or just getting to witness. It's interesting. It's very interesting. What's the Kosh need?
It's the segue. We need even more collaboration amongst all of our different units of local government to make things better. So talk about the trail system. It cuts across municipal boundaries, and it should, right? It shouldn't stop at the border. But to make that happen took a lot of effort to get all the different municipalities to say, yeah, we will build that section, or we will support that section of the trail system, right, as it's being built out.
Right.
So you think of the success in building that out, and you say there's work still happening. Yeah, there's work happening because a lot of work went into putting that plan together, making sure all of these sections connected. So when the opportunities arose, you weren't facing opposition of, well, yeah, I know you guys put that trail there, but we're not spending that money. We're not going to, right?
Correct.
No, we understand it. It benefits all of our citizens, right?
Right.
There's so many other opportunities out there. The one that just pops at the top of my mind is public transportation.
Yes.
And, well, we've done a good job in the Fox Cities with Valley Transit. That is really a marvelous public transit system that, it's owned and operated by the city of Appleton.
Hey, big fat shout out to Ron. Got to give Ron a shout out.
Absolutely. Done an awesome job with that service. But it serves people all the way from Kaukauna to Neenah. And it is actually financially supported by a number of municipalities, towns, villages, the 3 counties that it operates in. Now, it could be expanded, but here's where I think there's opportunities with it, especially with transit. Oshkosh has a transit system.
Yes, we do.
There is a link between Valley Transit and the Oshkosh Transit, but it's a little cumbersome. It's kind of hard to use. It takes a long time.
I'm not sure. Is it still exist? Because I thought they might have gotten rid of that connection between Oshkosh and Neenah. Yes. And don't quote me on that. But for whatever reason, I kind of remember observing it. And
I hope not. When I left office, we were having discussions about the potential of a commuter service, I-41 commuter service. We were talking about the potential of a stronger link between Oshkosh Transit and Fox Cities Transit.
Yes.
In discussions with the chancellor at UW Oshkosh, saying, I have a lot of students who come from the Valley. I have a lot of employees who come from the Valley. And if they had a more convenient way to get here, maybe I wouldn't have to keep spending money building more parking. I'm thinking, amen. Right?
And parking wasn't free.
No, it's not free.
As somebody who worked for the university, we paid for our parking.
Right. So if you had an alternative that was more convenient, you could hop on the public transportation. You could get there in a timely manner. Yeah. And maybe the university would provide incentive. A lot more inexpensive to provide incentive for your employees to use public transportation than to build and spend millions of dollars on parking lots, right?
Right.
So that's one example of collaboration. I think there are a number of examples of where we could probably strengthen our ties between our communities and reduce the amount of competition between political jurisdictions that actually exist in the same community. But yet there's a lot of parochialism, a lot of competition. competition for, oh, we need that business to establish their business on this side of the street, not that side of the street. And the reality is, who cares? We want them here.
Right.
We want them here because they're going to provide jobs for a lot of people and provide a necessary service, and
they contribute to the culture.
And they'll contribute, right?
They contribute.
So if they're on quote unquote the other side of the street, they're going to pay taxes to that jurisdiction and not my jurisdiction. Like, in the long run, it doesn't matter. We need to get past that and find ways to pool our resources. Now, the legislature just created an incentive to do that in their shared revenue package that they passed, and an early shout out to the people that worked so hard to get that done, because that was an effort that I was part of for over 20 years, was trying to get that reform done. So anyway, as part of that package, there is a $300 million grant program with incentives for collaboration amongst local government. Now, that's the good piece. The tough piece is they put such almost unachievable parameters to being able to access that grant money,
Isn't it?
because they don't fully understand what it takes to have successful collaboration. They think that there's a lot of wasted money out there, and you're going to save money right out of the chute. And a lot of times, when municipalities do decide to work together, the savings come in the form of avoided future costs, not immediate reduced costs. So there's still some education to do on that in that realm. But at least the door's open. There's an incentive to at least explore more collaboration.
Okay. I think it's time for a commercial break.
Did you know there are children in the Fox Valley in need of hearing aids, but their parents struggle to provide them because of lack of insurance or high copays? I am Juliette Sturkins, audiologist and board member of Here in the Fox Cities, and proud that this small local nonprofit organization has helped fund hearing aids for some 30 kids. Your donation would help more children hear. Visit hereinthefoxcities.org to learn more and to see their smiles. Every child deserves to hear.
Okay. Kosh listeners, let me just throw it out there. We play one commercial, but we have the opportunity for more. If you are a nonprofit out there, and I don't charge to play the commercial. If you're interested in recording a commercial, please reach out to us at askthekosh@gmail.com. Once again, that is askthekosh@gmail.com. And you can come to the studio, and the studio, which is AKA my daughter's old room, and come to the studio, and then we'll get something recorded, and we can put something out there. Now, for the next segment, which is quickly becoming my favorite segment, it is called Story Time. This is the opportunity for our guests just to share a story, a narrative about whatever they want to. It doesn't have to be connected to anything, just has to be what I would hope is a really cool story.
Bruh.
All right, Tim, what do you got?
If you know me, you know I've got a ton of stories. But those stories all have different a meaning behind them. And I think the one that I want to share is one that a lot of people may have heard, but may have forgotten. And it's the story of, I used to get this question, how did you become the mayor? right? I don't know that we mentioned that. I was the mayor of Appleton from 1996 to 2020. And the story of my first election is one that I used to assume that a lot of people knew that, but as time went on, a lot of people didn't and forgot about it. And I would just remember telling the story at a meeting of some other neighbors and other mayors, and the mayors sitting around the table. I mean, their jaws were just wide open and their eyes were really big.
Hey, you have me because you know what? I haven't heard this
Haven't
story.
heard it.
Nope. I'm in.
So I used to do things with the second graders because they would come on a field trip to City Hall. That's when they would study Appleton, and that's another whole story for another time. But they would routinely ask me, so how did you become the mayor? And the short answer to that question is I got cut from the basketball team in high school.
Bruh.
Okay. Connect that dot.
Okay, I'll connect that. Like a lot of teenagers, right? Going into high school, my goal was make the basketball team. I loved playing basketball, and I practiced, and I was on the team in junior high. And so you get to high school, couldn't wait for tryouts, go to tryouts. Last guy cut. Devastated. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? A friend of mine, I was talking to him, and he said, I'm going to go down to the YMCA. I'm going to check out this program called Youth in Government. And I looked at him, I go, so? Well, if you join, you get to go to Madison overnight. Oh, cool. All right, where do I sign up? I'd love to go to Madison overnight as a sophomore in high school.
Yes.
All right.
Most definitely.
So checked it out. Well, Youth in Government is a mock legislature. So in order to participate, you had to write a bill or proposal for a new law. Like, okay, I can do that. I wrote my bill. We go to Madison. You go overnight, and it's really cool. You go right in the Capitol, and you meet with other kids from around the state. You sit right in the Assembly and in the Senate. You actually elect a youth governor and a youth speaker, and you debate your bills. All right, cool. Sitting in the Assembly, my bill's one of the first ones that comes up. So I have to stand up in front of all these other people that I don't know and explain my idea. Okay, I did that. We voted. It passed. Oh, this is really cool. So the rest of the weekend, we're talking about different topics. If I had something to say, I stood up and I said it. Well, it happened to be the first year that the adults in the program from around the state, so you had YMCAs from all over the state that participated. So the adults were to choose the top 12 kids from the state to go to a national conference with the top kids from other states to debate national issues.
Oh.
And I got chosen.
Bruh.
It's like, I was like, it just blew me away. All I did was stand up and say what I thought. So that was my introduction to government, right? So I came back, got involved, ran for student council, listened to everybody say, student council is really dumb. All they do is plan dances. Okay. So I started talking to other students and friends, and I said, so let's change it. And so I ran for student council president at the end of my junior year, and my platform was scrap student council.
That was the platform?
And start over.
Oh, okay.
And I won. So this summer between my junior and senior year in high school, I worked with some other students and a couple of faculty members. And we wrote a new constitution for a new form of student government for our high school, and brought it back and had the student body vote on it in the fall, and it passed. And it was called the Student Faculty Administrative Council. So everybody in the school had representation on the council. Students, each grade had certain representation. Faculty, elected representatives, they had representation. Food service, other people. And you'll find this interesting. The way that I sold it was I would give a talk and I would say, there are over 2,000 people who come into this building every single day. This is a small community where everybody needs to be represented. And so it passed, and it was called the Student Faculty Administrative Council. The difference was we could now make school policy where students had a voice in the policy. Two types of vetoes that the principal had, one that we could override and one that we could only appeal to the school board. But now we could talk about serious issues. So we were talking about things, back in the mid-70s, talking about things like open campus, smoking on campus, which was controversial back then, and different things, along with the other social aspects. But we were doing it with adults in the room and having adult conversations. So that was kind of my introduction. So fast forward, go away to school, get married, have children. Always kind of paid attention to government, but never had a serious thought about like running. So one day there was a literature at our door. It was sitting in our kitchen. It was on our kitchen counter. My father-in-law was there. He picked it up. He looked at it. And what it said was our representative on the city council was not going to run again. And he looked at that and he looked at me and he goes, "You should run. You'd be really good at it." And I looked at him and I talked to my wife and I said, I don't know anything about the city. No, you'd be really good. You should do that. Okay. So I ran. It was an open seat. There was another person that was running. And I have the brochure from that first time I ran, and it talked about, believe it or not, electing people that had valley vision rather than tunnel vision. So I was actually talking about the concept of community and working together. A lot of things I talked about in that first campaign actually ended up being a foundation for a lot of the things that I did. So it was very consistent. Anyway, so I ran and I won, and I found myself on the city council, and I was nervous. And so my thought was, I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to figure out how things work. That lasted 2 meetings.
Bruh.
And we were debating at the time, right? I'm the young kid on the council. At the time, we were debating whether to spend $2.3 million. This was 1991. $2.3 million to renovate Mead Pool. And I stood up and I asked what I thought was an innocent question. I said, what are we getting for $2.3 million in renovating our pool that Kaukauna didn't get when they spent $1.8 million to build a brand new pool?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the parks director at the time stood up and he said, ours has a lot of intangibles. And he sat down. And I just looked at him and I turned around to the rest of the council and I said, I'm going to have a hard time explaining $500,000 of intangibles to my constituents. I don't think I can support this. Well, oh my gosh. That opened the floodgates. The mayor at the time thought she had the votes to get this done. a number of other people on the council said, well, it's a really good question. I don't know that I can support it. And it didn't pass. And now all of a sudden, some of these people on the council going, oh, I really like this young kid, and he's really good. And other ones were like really mad at me. And but it was just like, starting to ask those questions. And my public speaking skills came back. My interest in how government works started to come back. And I just really dove in. So 1996, we had a mayor that was elected in 92. He had been there 4 years. I was on the city council. I was fairly outspoken. I really didn't like the way that things were going. I didn't like the way we were doing our budgeting. A number of people were talking about running, but no one was making a decision. And so I said, I'm running. Right? Checked with my employer first to make sure that if I ran for mayor, that if I lost, I still had a job.
Well, that's a good start, right?
Because I had a young family at the time. But I decided to run. And the reason I ran was I didn't like the way we were doing our budget because it was not very transparent at all. And I had asked questions at budget time, and the mayor got very angry with me. And they were legitimate questions. He called me out of order, and it really wasn't out of order, but a lot of the council backed him. And so I ran, and my theme was called, because I was working at a financial institution, right? And we had the laws at the time, and they still are, right? They were called truth in lending laws, right? Full disclosure. Mm-hmm. When you get a loan, this is how much it costs, this is how much the interest is, this is how much you're going to pay, and so forth. Well, I called my campaign Truth in Spending. And it was really about being more transparent about what we were spending our money on and why. The mayor at the time, he didn't like that. He took offense to that. But there were 4 people running. I won the primary. We worked hard. Went out and knocked on a lot of doors, talked to a lot of people. It came to the general election. So this election happened in 1996. It happened to be in March that year because the state decided to move their presidential primary up to March. So it was in March. And on election night, we actually thought we won on election night. But we later learned that one of the people that called in the numbers from one of the districts had transposed some numbers.
Oh.
So here it is, 10 o'clock news, live broadcast, the reporters getting ready to interview me, thinking that we had won. We thought we had won. And right before we go on, he gets a message in his ear. And then he looks at me and he goes, City Hall says you lost by 8.
8 votes?
8 votes. City Hall says you lost. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1.
No way.
Yep.
Bruh.
That's horrible.
So, going from thinking that we won to finding out that way that City Hall said we lost by 8 votes, and then immediately cutting to a live TV interview. So we went on the interview, and he said, well, we just got word, City Hall says you lost by 8. What do you think? And I said, well, we had different information, but we're going to have to check that out. And, if that's right, then I know there are state statutes that govern what happens when elections are this close. So what we'll do is we'll do our research and see what the law says, and then we will follow the law. That was my response. Okay? The mayor's on a different station, and he's like bad-mouthing me and just not being very nice. Whatever. Okay. So, all right, City Hall says we lost by 8. Pretty much an automatic recount. So the recount is a week later, and we go to City Hall. The only people that can actually touch the ballots are people that are sworn in as poll workers. We had a number of people there observing. I had talked to an attorney. He said, so look for what we should be looking for are stray marks, goofy marks on the ballot. Okay. My thought going into the recount was, if nothing else, this will just validate the way that our voting system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, the system we used was one where the ballot had the name, and then it had two arrows pointing toward each other. And if you wanted to vote for that person, you had to fill in the blank. You had to connect the two arrows.
You had to connect the arrows, right?
Right.
You drew a line.
Right. You drew a line, and then it would go through the voting machine. The machine would count it. All right, so we start the recount, and they're looking at ballot after ballot, and all of a sudden, we're finding ballots that the arrows aren't connected, but the name is circled. Or someone drew a line from the name to the end of the first arrow. Or someone put an X between the arrows, which we don't know if the machine read that or not.
Right.
So these mismarked ballots were being set aside to be counted by hand by the Board of Canvassers. The other ballots are being run through the machine. Then you tally it up. You look at the totals. And so what happened is during the day, the margin started to change. And I was picking up votes. And it got down to 2. And we were counting one of the last districts. There were 18 districts. We were counting District 16. We had 15 ballots set aside that had been mismarked. They ran the other ballots through the machine. They decided who the 15 ballots were for. They added them up, and somebody said, okay, where's the rest of the ballots? We were missing about 150 ballots. And people started to panic and look, and, well, where are they? And started looking for them. And, long story short, I couldn't find them.
How did they know 150 ballots were missing?
Because let's just say, I don't know what the numbers were, but let's say on election night, there were 1,000 ballots cast, right?
Right. And you got the people that sign in. So you could compare to the number of people that sign in.
Right. You know how many votes were cast.
Right.
Right. So then you have the actual ballots, the paper ballots.
Right.
You look at them all. So you have a stack that are marked properly. Those are run through the machine. You have the other stack that you determine the voter intent. You add those up. And when they did that, it added up to 850. You go, okay, where's the rest of the ballots? Where's the other 150 ballots? Couldn't find them. So we went on. We counted the other 2 districts, and at the end of the night, the Board of Canvassers has to decide, what do we do? They were ready. I was up by 14. They were ready to declare me the winner, and my attorney was whispering in my ear saying, don't say anything, because if they declare you the winner and the mayor does not object, he has no grounds for appeal. Now, the mayor did not have his own attorney there. We had the city attorney. The city attorney was supposed to be acting on behalf of and advising the Board of Canvassers. Well, actually, he was advising the mayor too, but whatever. And I looked at my attorney and I said, I understand that, but this isn't right. So I asked the Board of Canvassers to take a time out, and I said, I'd like to talk to the mayor and the city attorney and the city clerk and my attorney, and we need to have a conversation. So we went into a different room, and I looked at the mayor and I said, I think we should go out there and ask them to take a recess and come back tomorrow, because I said, I need time to talk to my attorney. I really didn't. But I looked at him and I said, you need time to talk to an attorney on your behalf. I said, and the city attorney needs time to research the statute so he can properly advise the Board of Canvassers. And he looked at me and he shook his head and he goes, yeah, I think that's a good idea. So he walked out. I didn't have to do that, but it was the right thing to do. So he walked out. They agreed. They took a recess. They came back the next day. They talked to the poll workers from that poll district. And eventually they found the ballots.
Oh, okay. I was hoping the ballots would get found.
They had been mixed up with all the unused ballots and sent back to the printer and cut in half and thrown into a big bin to be recycled.
Whoa.
So people went over to the printer, dove in this big bin of cut up ballots and pulled out as many as they could find that had been marked. Threw them in a box, taped them up, brought it back to City Hall, put it in front of the Board of Canvassers and said, what do you want to do? And the Board of Canvassers said, we can't count them. They've been out of the control of the city for over a week. We don't know if we have them all. We don't know if they're valid ballots or not. If somebody messed with them, we can only count the ballots we have. And they declared me the winner by 14. So the mayor filed an appeal. And the appeal goes to circuit court. And so we went to circuit court. At the time, I said, you know what? Let the people in that district vote again. Well, no one wanted anything to do with that. Like, well, whatever. And we made our arguments to the judge, and the judge came back, and he said, this is what he said. Well, what the Board of Canvassers should have done is they should have taken the recount in all the districts where they had all the ballots. And in the district where they were missing ballots, they should have taken the election night results. That meant I lost by 2. The problem with his ruling was, out of the ballots that we did have, 15 had been set aside because they had been mismarked. 14 of those 15 were for me. So he essentially threw out ballots that we actually had for ballots that we didn't. Now, you can imagine it was crazy in terms of the emotion that was going on in City Hall, in the community, a lot of attention.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
This sounds like a nightmare scenario.
So I had to decide, do I file an appeal and keep dragging the city through this? Or do I walk away? So I called another friend of mine, an attorney, to come over because we had taken a lot of notes during the recount. And I said, help me think this through. Based on what we know, can we determine who really won? Because for me, the bottom line was, you know what? If I lost, I lost. I'm okay with that. But if I won, then we need to keep going forward. So we used deductive reasoning based on what we knew. It's like one of those logic puzzles, right? And we did that. And the conclusion we came to is, based on what we know, there are only 2 possible outcomes. It was either a tie or I won by 2. And I needed to know that. So based on that, we filed an appeal. Now, so lucky for us that Appleton is in 3 different counties, and each county is in a different appellate district. So we had to file 3 different appeals, which got consolidated into one, went to the appellate court down in Waukesha. The mayor was sworn in. I went back to my job. This is April 1996. We filed our briefs, we filed our arguments, and we waited and waited. And so there were things going on in the city. People would come to me and go, you need to say something. And I would say, I can't. I'm not the mayor, number 1. And number 2, I don't have all the information that the mayor has.
Right.
I'm not going to second guess what they're doing. Okay? And we just need to be patient. November. Right? This was April. November. It's 1996. It's election day. We're voting for president, and we're voting for Congress. And so this was Clinton versus Dole. All right. on election day, we get a message that the appellate court is going to release their decision tomorrow. Okay. So the day after the presidential election, I go to my attorney's office and walk in the morning, and he looked at me and he goes, "Congratulations, Mr. Mayor."
Oh,
Bruh.
And he said, because I must have had a shocked look on my face, and he said, let's take a look at this. So the appellate court ruled, and it was a unanimous decision, that the circuit court judge overstepped his authority. He did not have the authority to supplant his opinion for the opinion of the Board of Canvassers. His job was to determine, did they follow the law?
correct. That's what judges are supposed to do.
And the answer was yes, they followed the law. So I was declared the winner of the election in November after the election was in March. So that's how I became mayor. Now, the mayor at the time, he had to decide if he was going to appeal to the state Supreme Court, and he decided no. So he left. So that was Wednesday. He decided on Friday. I spent Saturday and Sunday cleaning up files at my old job. I was sworn in on Tuesday. The first council meeting I presided over was the budget.
Oh, that's rough.
And not my budget. It was his budget,
That's rough.
right? And I come into a situation where most of the council didn't want me there, didn't trust me. The staff was very nervous. They didn't know how I would operate. They just didn't know me, right?
Right.
So they were nervous. So that's the situation that I walked into as mayor in 1996, and we started from there. So that's my story of how I became the mayor in 1996. But the important part was I wanted to do what was right, and it wasn't about, like in today's world, right, making stuff up, fabricating lies or whatever. It's like, you know what? If I lost, I lost. But I didn't. I did actually win. So.
All right, Tim. That's going to go down as one of the best narratives on the Kosh. That was good.
Well,
I was captivated. You had me. I was going along.
Well, people, I ended up being there a long time, 24 years. We accomplished a lot. I'm proud of what we did. But a lot of people don't understand the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't there's a mandate. He was elected. He came in and, he's going to change things or whatever. Like, no.
No, that's tough. That's hard when there's not the clear mandate and the clean transition.
Right. And I think if you know some of the history of the things that we did at the city, it was, I think you can understand what I tried to do and what we tried to do eventually was always do the right thing. Do what we felt was best for our city and for our community. Because a lot of things we did were not readily accepted right out of the gate.
And I wish I could say I'm surprised, but no, I'm not. Especially now that I have had the opportunity to work under the umbrella of local government. Yes.
Well, I mean, your position is one of them, right?
Yeah. I like to think that I'm not so controversial anymore. That this is that the work that's being done in this position, because it's not about the work, it's actually the position that's the controversial part. That's the part that people have. It's not the things that the position actually does, or at least I don't think it is, not from my feedback that I collect. I just think, there's some people who don't find value in the role. But my approach to this is I'm just an employee like anyone else. So that's how much attention I want. I want as much attention as any other person working for the city of Appleton.
Well,
And if you're not worried about what this particular clerk is doing or this IT person is doing or this individual is doing, give me the same faith that I'm doing good things serving
I think
that community.
your position is well established now. It's been shown over the years to be valuable, but it was a product of, and what I used to say often was, we need to be proactive so that we don't have to be reactive. And one of that was, we created the position in 1998. Appleton was 95% white. Why would we create a position? Now, it wasn't called diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was called intercultural relations, right? But the justification was, hey, number one, we know that the face of our community is changing. It's going to change. That's
right.
Number one. But number two, we have an Asian population in our community that has been here for over 20 years and still doesn't feel welcome here. And that's wrong. So we need to fix that.
Bruh.
So, yeah, I had to fight for the position a number of times over the years, in the lean years, that really questioned, do we really need this? And, but here we are today. Yeah. And it's been proactive. It has grown over the years. And I can tell you, 2020, right? I just had left office. The whole George Floyd thing was happening, the Black Lives Matters, right? And I got calls from a number of my colleagues around the state because they knew what we had done. And they go, hey, you had that position for a long time, and I really think I need one now. So, do you have any advice?
Yes.
And my advice was, you're too late. You're reacting, and everyone knows you're reacting. So your journey is going to be even harder.
Yes.
So
it is much harder on the reactive than to approach on the proactive, because that gives you an opportunity to pivot and plan.
Right. Exactly.
You get to plan, you get to pivot, and you learn. Pivot as you learn. And but when you're reacting, you're just scrambling for solutions that are just meant to appease.
Yeah. In the webinars that I do, I tell people, when you're reacting, when you have your reactive nature, means you're running in place. You're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Being proactive is about doing things to become what you want to be. Reacting only reinforces who you are today.
Okay. Well, that was so good. I just like to acknowledge that was really, really good.
Well, it was long, but
it was worth every minute.
Good.
All right. So now we move on to that time of the show.
Breaking news.
Makes me happy every time, Tim. Every time. It is time for the topic of the week. The topic of the week is chosen by our guest 99.9% of the time. And this is no different. So, Tim, what is our topic of the week?
Well, we've touched on it, and I bounced around with different ideas for a topic, but we touched on it several times. And I want to talk a few minutes about culture. And culture in terms of the culture inside of an organization, inside of a community, right? The culture in which you exist, and how, number one, how important that is, But number two, that you are much better off if you are intentional about the kind of culture you want to create, or what you want the culture to be. And I'm not just talking about leaders. I'm talking about everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody participates in that.
Yes.
But not enough of us actively think about it. What kind of culture do you want to exist in? If you're part of an organization, what do you want that culture to be? Do you want to work at a place where you are heard, where you're respected, where you're treated with dignity, where you know what your role is, where you know what kind of impact that you have, either on the organization or on the wider world in the work that you're doing? That your work has meaning more than just a paycheck. That's, is that the kind of culture you want? Then let's set out to make sure that's the culture we have. Too oftentimes we take, I was going to say we take it for granted, but I would rather say too many times we don't even think about it. It just happens to us.
Correct. We do. We let culture happen to us, or we don't realize that the actions that we're doing within our organization is setting culture.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. You join an organization and, you've got some choices, right? You can understand who you are, what your core values are, and you can stay true to that, or you can just kind of go along to get along, right? I'm part of this culture. Like, oh yeah, I know they gossip a lot. Like, I'm either going to ignore it or, oh yeah, I really like this. I'll participate in it. You're just feeding into the culture that already exists, right? Now, maybe you don't have the kind of influence to actually start to change the culture, but you can have an influence by the words you use, the actions you choose, the things you choose to do or not to do. Those can have an impact. And I'll tell you, successful businesses, organizations, sports teams.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
They talk about that all the time.
My
Winning
wife and I were
culture.
talking about this. Look at the teams that win championships.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that have the culture where everyone's on the same page. They respect each other. They like playing together. And it doesn't matter the sport. Other teams, maybe they have bigger stars,
Mm-hmm.
right? Better athletes,
Mm-hmm.
even better coaches.
Mm-hmm.
But they just don't have the culture
Of winning.
of winning,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So culture is important. And more of us need to pay attention to that. In our community, what kind of culture do we want in our community?
Yes.
And then we need to model that. Especially as leaders, we need to model it. But everyday citizens can model it.
I think we need to reckon with it. And it's not even, I don't want to say model it because the culture may be bad, maybe a poor culture.
I'm talking about modeling the kind of culture you
Want it to be.
Correct.
But even then, what I'm saying is what you have is people who think the status quo or the historical is good, but everything about the environment, the space, the constituents has changed, and they're holding on to old, comfortable culture when it no longer fits.
Yeah. And what I would say about that is it's not a negative comment on the people. It's more of a commentary on the fear of change,
Yes.
right? Which is prevalent. I mean, it's it's kind of part of human nature, right? It's the fight or flight, well, this is something different, your defenses go up, and there's just kind of an inherent fear of change, risk taking. I mean, it's hard. for some people, right? Fear of failure, all of those things play into it. But what I'm saying is, if we first of all, we understand that, and we can choose to be a participant in changing the culture to one that is better than what we have.
Yes. I don't think people always understand how important culture is in the big picture of an organization or a team or anything functioning and the successes that they have. Culture is undefeated.
Correct.
You know, anybody can come along. You can bring in the best coaches, you can bring in the best players, you can bring in the best workforce, the best employees. But if there's not a good culture or a culture of success or a culture of team working together, it's not going to work. As someone who has moved organizations throughout his career and has been part of really good cultures and cultures where I wasn't in there a good 2 months and I knew this is going to be a hard one.
So I forget which business leader said this, right? Culture eats strategy for lunch.
Facts.
Right? I forget who it was, but it was.
You've
heard that before.
Yes, I have,
Yeah.
and I live by that.
Absolutely. Strategies come and go. Strategies are good, not good. You can take, risk, but if you don't have the underlying culture, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter. So I can tell you my unwritten goal when I became mayor, in that controversial way, my unwritten goal was, I want to change the culture to one that the next person won't want to change.
Mm.
And so that was always at the core of a lot of things that I did, was trying to figure out ways to start to change the culture, one that was more positive and more respectful, and where people came to work because they liked coming to work and weren't just embarrassed to be a public servant, right?
Right.
So, and I feel like we accomplished that at the city. And to my surprise, some of the work that we did started to spill out into the community. And I could actually sense a change in the culture of Appleton, living in Appleton, and a positive one. And the reason I know that is I would get stories fed back to me, anecdotes.
Right.
We love it here. There's something different here. I can't put my finger on it. And I came to accept that as it's the culture. There's a different culture here. Mm-hmm. And that's why they can't put their finger on it.
Right.
They can't really define it, but they know it.
They know what
it's
it feels like.
Yeah.
It's tangible.
Right. And I'm reminded, yesterday I went to the farm market, right? I talked about it, I love that event, because you're going to go there and it's not just a farm market. It's an event. It's part of defining our culture. And the reason I know this is if you ever go down there, just stop and watch the pace at which people are going through the farm market.
Mm-hmm.
It's slow.
Mm-hmm.
It's intentional.
Very.
They have smiles on their faces.
It's familiar.
It's diverse.
Very.
I just love it when I'm down there and I see the diversity of the people and the products and the vendors,
the businesses,
the businesses that mix, and people stopping to talk to each other, and that, to me, that's the definition of community, right?
Yes.
Building relationships, coming together, celebrating in their own way, what we have. And I just love that market because it's that opportunity every week to be able to do that, and it's a comfortable, familiar, wonderful.
I think it's a great exhibit of the culture.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first to celebrate it, and I appreciate it because what I can say is, as I talk to other colleagues who do the work that I do, in different spaces, whether it's private sector or in government or in education, the one thing I can say is that my battles aren't the same battles, and they are because people already have accepted this role, and people accept the work, and people want these things to happen, a better community, a place where you can belong, finding ways to welcome those who are new to the community or our refugee population or people moving in, or our new businesses with owners who are not traditional owners. Like, there's all of these things, and the one thing I don't typically have to do, and this is the culture, is I don't have to explain what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Where all my other colleagues have to take time to do that. And they have to explain the why. And I don't have to spend that much time on the why.
Right.
It's more on the what. And that's where you want to be.
Exactly.
You want to be in the what.
That's the why defines your culture, right? And don't get me going. I could go all day on the why and Simon Sinek and applying it to different scenarios and so on and so forth.
So I appreciate this. I appreciate the work of the predecessors. And
I'll tell you, your predecessors, the position changed over the years. And I remember at a couple different points when the position would change, and I would have to remind some of your predecessors, you are not a caseworker. Because a lot of times when people would find out that we had the position, they wanted to dump their problems on them, right? Mm. I'm a minority business owner and I need help, or I'm an immigrant, I need help with my family trying to get them here, right? And which is so much in the heart of people that do the work that you do. You want to help them.
Yes,
right?
It's at the fundamental foundation of why you do the work.
Absolutely. But I would remind them, you're not a caseworker. Your job is to understand all the other resources that are in our community and get them connected to the resource that can help them so that you can continue to work on the bigger picture and that kind of changing the culture piece.
Facts. Just simply facts. Okay. Any last words you want to say about culture?
No. It's just, it's not just about yogurt.
Okay, I'm not going to lie, Tim. That was a player line. That was awesome. Okay. Well, then that moves us into our next part of the show.
Love the music.
Oh, yeah. Well,
It's my kind of music, man.
Kosh listeners, thank you. Ooh, we're going to start over. We had a finger flub. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving us your minds. As you know, we are a work in progress. Please let us know how we're doing. Reach out to us if you would like to be a guest. Reach out to us if you would like to suggest guests. I've gotten some pretty amazing guests on suggestions, so we are open. We are here to listen. We are here to make the Kosh one of the best, most engaging platforms here in the Fox Cities region. That's what we're going for now. You can reach out to us at askthekosh@gmail.com. Once again, that is askthekosh@gmail.com. Kosh listeners, also, please take some time and leave us a review. Leave us a review wherever you would like, wherever you listen to the Kosh at, whether that's like Apple Podcasts or Spotify. But take the time, leave us a review. You can leave us a review on the website also. And then make sure you subscribe. What we're trying to do is we're trying to change our analytics. We want more people to learn about us because we think we have something pretty fantastic and special going on here. I can't think of another place where you get to listen to so many different voices from our community and to connect with people that you might not be able to connect with otherwise. So reach out to us and let us know. And last but not least, Kosh listeners, I got a couple hats, a couple of t-shirts. If you're interested, once again, email at askthekosh@gmail.com. Okay, now it is truly time for what is my favorite part of the show. It is shout out time. All right, Tim, what do you got?
Well, I kind of mentioned it before, and we didn't go into this a lot, but during my time as mayor, I worked on a lot of statewide efforts to try to change the relationship between the state and local government, trying to get people to understand that we're in this together, that we ought to be better partners, and that requires that financial relationship. I know you've had people on the show earlier this year talking about shared revenue, right? And it's a project I actually worked on last year with a group of other local officials around the state. But I have to give a shout out to the people in Madison that finally got it done. So, maybe this is unusual in these days, but I have to really give credit to not only the governor, but the legislative leaders who are on the other side of the aisle that found a way to come together and actually make this happen. And I think part of that was they knew that something needed to happen because they were hearing from people all over the state.
Right.
Because we had done a good job of educating them. So, but thank you for doing something in a bipartisan way that is going to benefit every citizen across this state in some way. So I have to give them a shout out. And for whatever reason, it's rare these days that those kinds of things happen, but I'm glad it did. So there's lots of other shout outs to great people across this community that are doing good work. But I wanted to highlight that one.
Okay. With that, I want to shout out my boss who took time to travel across the state to make sure that all of the sessions that were had, the listening sessions where you could put input in, there was a lot of effort, a lot of intentional effort done to make sure that shared revenue from what is one of the largest municipalities in Wisconsin, like that it was heard.
He did an awesome job of educating people and educating the business community and other people in our community about something that could be that they could look at and just gloss over. But he got them to see it and understand why something needed to change. And people who at first blush probably wouldn't necessarily support something like that. So he did a great job.
All right. So for my shout outs, I'd like to send a shout out. I always got good shout outs because I take the time. These shout outs. Shout out to the EAA visitors. It's EAA time. Today is the day that people are really coming into town. Well, they've been kind of floating in, and you can always tell by the license plates and people who occasionally are driving on the wrong way on the street. We appreciate you, EAA visitors. I always love the EAA visitors when they come to visit. You know what really makes me happy? Australians. Australians are amazing. And you know what? They kind of do what we do. Like there's a real connection between Wisconsinites and Australians. I don't know why, but I like running into them out and about. in the city. So shout out to them. I'd like to send a shout out to my girl, Myra Posias.
Myra.
She's here in town right now. So gonna go do a little eating of some food, sharing of the most important unifying word.
Make sure you say hello for me.
I will definitely do that. Big shout out to the people who do Waterfest. Okay, Waterfest. I'm not going to lie. I've been living here for a long, long time, and I have whispered criticisms of Waterfest. Not that they don't put on great productions, but they don't typically bring performers that I am particularly interested in. But this week they had Mavis, they had Ziggy, they had Trombone Shorty. Yes.
I missed it?
Yes. And let me tell you, that show was fire. And people were dancing, and the vibe was amazing. I wish I would have known. So, big shout out to the people who put together Waterfest and the people who volunteer at Waterfest. And hey, even the people that attended Waterfest, because it was a fun crowd. I had a blast. Big shout out to Carla and Tom over at the UW Fox Cities Foundation. And last but not least, got to send a shout out to my mom. Her birthday's coming up here shortly. My mom is a Leo to her core. Hey, love you, Mom, very, very much. Okay, last thing to do. We got one more thing to do, Tim. And that is you get a choice, A, B, or C. And choice one is, we always like to say, we would like you to share some parting words of wisdom with the Kosh listeners. But option B is, could you share what would yourself today tell your 12-year-old self? And then, because it's multiple choice, you could do option C, which is all of the above. So you could do both. So what would you like to do?
Wow, I didn't know this was coming.
Oh, this is the good stuff. Yeah. This is the good stuff. See, that's on the other, you know why? Because that's on the other side of the page.
Yeah, probably. I should have turned it over, huh?
No one.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, boy.
See, this is where I need Jeopardy music.
Right. Yeah, you.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I'm going to put some on here.
So, parting words. People, relax. RELAX. I know he's gone now, but I mean, come on. So much of this stuff we fret over, and we wring our hands and get worried about. It's just like, I used to do this. You know, when I was mayor, people would get all worked up over a subject, and at some point I would just take a deep breath and go, you know what? This isn't life and death. This is like, make a decision. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the one that I think is right. Just let's make a decision and then move forward, right? Rather than just get stuck and be afraid. Don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid to take risk. That's one thing I would probably tell my 12-year-old self, right? I would also probably tell my 12-year-old self to pay attention more. It's a skill you learn over the years, right? And I'm still learning. We all learn that. However, I would say being a little bit naive in a positive way over the years has probably served me better than being skeptical of everything. So, yeah, that's what I would say. Just relax, take a deep breath, right? Things aren't as bad as you think, and they're not as good as you think either. So just move forward, be proactive, think about the future, think about what you want to be, what you want your community to be, what the world to be, and then figure out your part in it.
Facts. It's facts. That was good. All right. You know what? The Kosh.